Greetings, fellow investigators, and welcome to our video podcast, Into the Darkness, where my friends and I play the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. I'm your host, Tom Rayleigh. We continue now with episode 24 of Chaosium's masterpiece, Horror on the Orient Express, with myself as the game master. Our investigators are asleep aboard the Orient Express, and so, once again, they find themselves in the Dreamlands. Jeff Wilkins will give us a recap of the last time they were here. And so, without further delay, the players are ready. Let us begin our journey into the darkness. Jeff?
So looking back, our episodes 9 through 11 is where we experienced the Dreamlands. So it's going to be hard to kind of fit a recap into a short thing, so I'm just going to hit it kind of like bullet points and key characters.
Okay.
So first, some important names. We have Alexei Pachekov. He was the owner of the Dreamland Cafe. We have Henry Peters, sort of our own personal guide for much of the Dreamlands. He's on board the Dreamland Express and caters to its passengers' needs. I believe he said he built the Dreamlands Express. We met, we met Duncan Mackenzie. He was a passenger. He was handcuffed to a suitcase. We met Ivan Karakov, also a passenger. Apparently he was Russian and a possible arms dealer. We met Madame Bonneval, passenger, very unpleasant woman from the 1490s time period, and we pretty much determined that she just does not like men. We met Koranis, a king of the Dreamlands. Miro Nemir, a Cerubian wine merchant.
Yeah, I don't think you actually met Koranis.
No, I was just, he was mentioned as being
right,
the king.
The king.
Let's see. We met a group called the Sarnathians, an elegant group. We met a smelly, gelatinous group called the Ibians. And of course, we met Ghost, a cat who has been taking a liking to Dr. Dawkins. So while on board the Dreamlands Express, we've met and seen some really interesting people and places. We've been treated like we're royalty with extravagant meals, posh rooms, and Henry tries to accommodate all of our questions. We've been introduced to something called Vert. It's like a green lump of clay. Using this lump of clay, we're supposed to fashion it into a sort of icon of the thing or event that has troubled each of our characters. Dr. Dawkins was able to form his on the first try, while the rest of us struggled with how to use it. We're not entirely sure what the purpose of the Dreamlands is, or how or why it exists, but it seems to have something to do with our background. Each of our characters is carrying with them an event that has shaped our lives. It seems like the purpose of the Dreamlands is like a tool that will allow us to cast our traumatic event into the Gulf of Nodoms, at which point we will be free from it. Along the way, the Dreamlands Express has been making stops where we can get out and explore a little bit, but so far we have not wandered far from the train for fear of missing it leaving. Not to mention that the Dreamlands Express also seems to have passengers that are not from this world, but appear to be from other worlds in the universe. In our last episode in the Dreamlands, we met a new character named Zusha, who seems to be important in some way, but we didn't get a chance to know her before we were awoken on board the Orient Express. Our next stop aboard the Dreamlands Express is Czar. That's what I got.
Excellent. All right. Now, I believe that I ended the last episode, the last regular episode, with you guys falling asleep. And it sort of seemed like you were falling through the air, and you could see the train down below, and suddenly you were in your rooms. But your rooms had been all opened up, and there was a large table in the center, and you guys were all sitting around the table trying to construct your totem by using your dreaming skill. Dr. Dawkins has already succeeded, so he's sort of, I don't know, poking fun at you because you guys aren't doing very well. But you may, at this point, state what it is you're trying to create, and then take your rolls if you want to try.
Okay. Frank, do you want to go first?
Sure. My intent was I was going to try to create something difficult. I assume it's difficult. A snow globe, like a scene with like a ice skating rink or ice skating pond. And when you shake it, the little snow. Let's see. You got 12. Oh no, not at all. 99.
Ooh.
Oh.
I dropped my dirt on the floor.
It hops back up on the table. It barely quivers.
Okay. So I guess it's my turn. What I'm trying to shape and fashion is essentially two figures merged together, deformed, malformed, elongated arms and legs. They are the shapes, the twisted demonic shapes of Eldridge's mother and father, who died and whose voices he's hearing. So we'll see what we did. We'll see how we did. 18 out of 22.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So as you stand there, the vert sort of quivers and it begins to form, and it forms into this grotesque little thing that looks more or less exactly like you want. It colors itself the way that you want it to, and
Awesome.
And-
So it's got like black hair, and they're like merged at the face, and they're screaming and they're reaching out. Yeah, that's how he imagines it.
so you have succeeded. And Henry is there, and he's like, "Oh, you have done French accent. Ah, monsieur, you have done very well. I think it is rather gruesome, yeah." Uh-oh, that was Dr. Bruner. I got to get back into the French accent. He says, "Well, Henri. Yes, you have done very well, monsieur. But,
Thank you.
perhaps you would like this little silk bag to put that in."
Dog barking. So yeah. Yes. I'll let me take the. Do you have a silk bag? Oh, thanks.
Yeah, of course, monsieur.
Boop. I'll hide its grotesque form from everybody on the train.
He says, "Well, monsieur, I would suggest Frank, Monsieur Coates, keep trying, but I must go now, if you don't mind. If there would be nothing else, messieurs?"
Would you have explained that out loud, Thomas, or was that like for the benefit of the audience?
That was for the benefit of the audience. There's a lot of background that I've given Tom. Tom knows it.
Yeah.
Once again, you as characters may know just like a little bit, but not the whole backstory. It's so you may have bits and pieces, and you may know like, oh, who the hell are these guys? Because it barely resembles them.
I'll just be sitting at the table and see that you successfully did it, and just raise my eyebrow.
Well
done. Well done.
I just put it in the bag and I sit there.
I do turn to Frank. Frank? No,
Yeah.
Henry. Sorry. I turn to Henry and I ask him if he remembers three people, and I'll explain who the people were from the journal that we read. I said, would you happen to remember this when you were in the other world?
What, monsieur? What you want me to remember?
There were three passengers on the Orient Express, and I would say it was in the 1800s. A young lady and two gentlemen. One strapping fellow who carried around a saber, and another one who seemed to be sort of to himself. He was more or less like a priest.
I have had many customers, many passengers. Of course, both here and when I was alive on the Orient Express. Do you have a name or?
And then I'll say I remember the woman's name. Her name was Matilda, and I believe the other gentleman, one was Leopold, and the other one was Marcus, if I'm not mistaken.
Do a now his face is covered, but do a psychology roll because you've begun to pick up on body language pretty well with him.
No. I only have base psychology, so.
Oh, but 21's a good roll. Regardless, what you notice is that you would say Henry suddenly becomes very serious. And his voice, the tone of his voice, everything changes. And he's like, "Oui, monsieur. Yes, I remember them very well."
Have you seen them on this train at all?
Monsieur, please, this is a difficult thing for me to discuss, monsieur, but I am surprised that you know about them but you say it's from a journal. In part, monsieur, Monsieur Marcus is the reason why I've created this train in the first place. You see, some horrible, horrible events took place. I knew them before these events took place, when they traveled on my train when I was alive. And their friend Leopold was lost, Captain, I believe, Captain Leopold Evans. The lady Matilda was very badly damaged. I believe she spent the rest of her life in an institution, but Mr. Marcus became somewhat devoted to Matilda. He told me that she was a little more normal when she was around him, and she traveled with him occasionally on the train. He took care of her in order to get her out and away from the asylum this year. It was because of the things that had happened to them that I wanted to create this. You see, I have been a traveler in the dreamland since I was a young boy, but I had never conceived to create this train until I could see the pain that Monsieur Marcus felt. There was something in his mind that was destroying him slowly over time. And so I created this train, and in fact, Monsieur Marcus was one of the first people to ever travel on the Dreamland Express. He and Madame Matilda would come here. I don't know exactly how they came, but they ended up here. Madame Matilda there was no cognition, there was no mind there anymore. But there is a place, and in fact it is a place that this train goes to, called Aira. It is farther on our journey. It is one of the most beautiful places in the Dreamlands, and he used to take her there so that she could be at peace, at least for a little while. He tried a number of things when he was here in the Dreamlands to see if he could find Captain Leopold. But though he tried a number of times, he was never successful. And then one day he stopped coming here, and I don't know what happened to him after that. I imagine he probably died. But I have continued, but I don't know what happened to them.
I understand.
Yeah, like that story actually touched me. Sheesh. I asked him, so if we were to die in the other world, we could no longer come here. Is that correct?
That is not necessarily true. Myself, I am here and I died. My friend Alexei and his friend Isaac both have, I believe, died in the other world and they came here. But most people don't.
I see. Well, I'm sorry to bring up bad memories, and I thank you for telling us that. Just reading the journal, it felt like we were really close and personal with them, and you were mentioned in the journal. That's why I asked. You're a good individual. You're a good person.
Yes, I believe most of the events all started like in 1893, I believe.
Yes, that would be correct.
And the fire that took my life was in 1897.
I see.
But is there anything else, monsieur?
That'll be it. Thank you for your time.
Oui, monsieur. And he leaves.
And I look to the rest of you guys, and I'm like, holy shit. Damn.
It was quite a story.
Yeah.
Well, and it's daytime in the Dreamlands, yeah?
Yes, it is. You're heading towards Czar. It's probably about 10 o'clock. You should be arriving in Czar just before noon.
Okay. So I kind of, push up and off, and I say, I'm going to go to the lounge cabin and sit and just, look at the horizon until we reach Czar.
Okay.
If you two don't mind. And I just grab my silk bag, and carry it with me.
Okay. Now, what are the rest of you going to do?
I'm gonna go to the back car and visit Ghost.
Okay.
Feels like it's been a while.
Okay. And Frank?
I'm not really sure. I think. Can I also see like the countryside? You want to call it that from like my cabin or whatever?
Yes, you can see it out the window.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay, so you're just gonna sit and look out the window. Okay, that's cool.
Have a nice cup of coffee.
Eldridge leaves first, and he doesn't get more than, let's say, 20 or 30 feet down the hall, when he encounters, well, I take that back. You get to the lounge, and you go in there and sit, and when you go in there, at the other end, there's a little round table, and there are a number of the Sarnathian delegation sitting there. And I don't remember what encounters you'd had with them before, but one of them, one of the gentlemen, one of the men, he looks over at you, and he gets up and he walks over to where you are, and he says, "Pardon me." He says, "My friends and I were interested in chatting with you, if you don't mind."
Is there a reason?
Yes, we think that you're probably the most, of your companions, you seem to be the most intelligent and the most, well, good-looking. And we find that interesting.
All right. I could say the same about you. The interesting part, and he's clearly, nervous. He's clearly uncomfortable. But he stands up and he says, "Shall we sit at your table?"
Yes, please.
Okay.
So you go over to their table, and as I described them before, these people are very elegant. Their clothing is very fancy. So tell us more about this world you come from. It seems very complicated.
Out of character. Do we know anything about? Have we learned any knowledge on Sarnath?
Not really.
Or Kadath? No. Okay.
Sarnath, correct.
Yeah. Okay. So we don't have any knowledge of that. Okay. What exactly are you interested in Earth? What exactly interests you?
This is just a chat. We find you interesting. Rather curious creatures, a bit different than ourselves, but that's always exotic and interesting. You seem to have beautiful features, and we've overheard bits and pieces of your conversation. You seem to be intelligent.
Is intelligence something that's very prominent in your world?
Well, of course, we're perhaps the most sophisticated of all of the civilizations in the Dreamlands. Our main city, Sarnath, is a splendor, a beautiful, beautiful city. All the people are well fed and cared for. Our culture is high. We have music and art, and it's a beautiful and wonderful place. There's very few places that can compare to it.
Sounds like a place that I'd like to visit. I'm very interested in the arts. Certain arts. I kind of give a smile.
Oh, what, are you an artist?
If writing is to be considered an art, then yes, I'm not particularly good at it.
Ah, you're a poet. How wonderful.
And I say, are you exactly interested in Earth because is our culture that different from Sarnath?
Well, we know very little about your culture. It would seem that we have many things in common.
Yeah, and okay, so I say, well, in Russia, this is how it was. This is the culture of Russia, as explained to me by my parents, and I explain the Tsarist Russia to them, and then I say, and then we lived in America, and this is what it's like there. Just kind of the bullet points of each culture. Tsarist Russia was very, there was two completely different spectrums of the social political spectrum. In America now, it's similar, but there's a perception of freedom and choice and all that stuff. He doesn't speak of it, highly. He doesn't speak of politics very high, but he points out like, the Amber Room in St. Petersburg is, a marvel, and he explains, the wonders of the world and how, amazing those are. He's very centered on culture. Politics, he's like, that's all bullshit.
They seem fascinated by all of this. Now, it's not just him, but there's four men and four women, and the women are lovely, and they're giving you the flirty eyes, and the men are lovely, and they're giving you the flirty eyes, and it's just they seem very pleasant, but you do notice that there is that sort of arrogance that pops in there every once in a while, and it's not that unusual because if you compare them to other cultures, they are a high culture.
We're children to them. They probably have had a civilization for thousands and thousands of years. We've only technically had civilization for 6,000. You know, so we're children to them. So I'm totally fine with that arrogance.
He says, "Oh, actually, that's not quite the case. Our people were once humble too, and it was only a few. It was less than 1,000 years ago. We came to the crap. I'm not going to remember it. We came to settle near the great lake. I've got a name for it. It's probably, I think it's Minar. The Great Lake of Minar.
Oh,
And,
yeah. It's Minar, and the land is the land is Minar. The river and the lake is AI.
AI. Okay.
Yeah.
And we settled there, and we've built our culture in less than 1,000 years. But of course, we had the Ibians to contend with. You've probably seen them. They're rather repulsive, and they're
occupy a curious race.
Yeah, curious if you find yourself attracted to nastiness, I suppose. She says they can't even speak. They're so backwards and primitive. You see what they wear is just like loincloths, and we tolerated them for a while, but eventually, progress.
And I kind of narrow my eyes, and I say, progress?
Well, as one city grows, another one shrinks.
I don't understand. So what exactly happened?
Well, to be very clear, there was a kind of a war between the two. I'm sure you're familiar with war.
Yes.
It happens all the time. And the more powerful and the more successful civilization usually wins the war, and we won the war. Most of the Ibians were exiled.
And this definitely strikes a chord, seeing as how the reason why he left Russia was because of the pogroms and all that. And so he looks at them and says, "So what did you do? Did you push them out of their land, or did you kill them all instead?"
Well, there were some killed, of course. That's always the case in a war. Our difficulties now are that we've been summoned by King Kuranis because the remaining Ibians want reparations for the war, and the war took place hundreds of years ago, but I don't know. I think they want to rebuild their civilization, and we don't really want any part of it, but when the king calls, we have to go.
Don't you think it's sort of your obligation to assist in the less developed cultures? You being such a high culture, don't you feel like you should assist?
What could we possibly do for them? Do you want to share a bathroom with one of them, or live in the same town? The city would smell to high heaven. It would be horrible.
Well, no, but if your cultures are so different, why not teach them high culture? Why not teach them in basic sophistication? Give them and he kind of glares, because once again, this sounds almost exactly like what happened with the pogroms. So he's a little not happy.
All right. Well, let's assume that this conversation goes on. Let's jump back to Wayne. All right, Wayne, or Dr. Dawkins. Dr. Dawkins leaves the room, and he goes in the opposite direction. He arrives. He just gets to the point where he's at the what do we call it? It's like it's not a bathroom, but it's where the bathrooms are, but it's the salon where the It's all tile and marble, and beyond that is where the cats are.
Yeah.
And when you get there, you suddenly, out of the corner of your eye, you notice something big, fat, and green, sort of jammed up in a stall, up in a corner, and it's making weird, bobbly movements. It's very strange. Like you almost, if I were to describe it, it would be like a big old tumor or something that's jammed right up into it's like it's up in the corner between the roof and the ceiling on the two walls. And go ahead and do a spot hidden.
Sure. I missed that.
Okay. You also notice a really nasty smell. But it's one that's kind of familiar. It's kind of like old nasty cheese and socks.
And I do remember the other guys, what did you call them?
The Ibians.
Ibians. So I'm like, all right.
Well, you now realize that what it is it's one of the Ibians, and he's been shoved up into the corner. Now, the Ibians are kind of gelatinous, so you can now see he's got arms and legs and a face and everything, but he's wedged in there, and he can't seem to get unstuck from that position, and he's trying to. He's in the look on his face is one of distress.
I'll go over here and try to help him.
Okay. Now, they have rather prodigious claws. Okay. But he's not like attacking or reacting violently the way an animal would. But how exactly are you going to help him? He is kind of within reach, and you could probably pull him loose.
Yeah.
But remember the smell.
yeah, the smell. I don't know if he can understand me, but I'll go up to him and I'll say, keep calm. And I look at his claws and I'll say, keep those claws to yourself. I'm going to try to pull you down.
Okay. So you go ahead and you grab a hold of him, and rather easily, although he does, it's sort of like, it's like he's sort of created a vacuum that's holding him up there, or it's created a vacuum that's holding him up there. You pop him off the wall and bring him down to the ground, and he sort of straightens himself up, and you now reek.
Okay.
And he looks up at you, and he doesn't say anything because he can't, but he sort of looks at you for a second and looks around the room, and then he just leaves. He starts to leave.
Okay.
You get the impression that maybe thank you, or that might not even be part of their vocabulary. So
yeah.
He doesn't know what to do, except that now he's down, he's going to go on his way.
Okay. I am now going to wash the smell off of me. And now that I'm in this bath, I think I'll take a bath, wash the smell off of me, and then head over to the cat room.
Okay. Now you know that the facilities there are magnificent. So anything that you need, there's definitely a bath, a sauna with wonderful hot water, and you've got oils, and you've got perfumes, and you've got all sorts of things to make yourself smell really good.
Okay.
But it takes a bit of scrubbing to get the smell off.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Frank, you're in your room, and you're looking out the window, and you can see that the landscape slowly changes as you go along. It's when you first were looking out the window, it was mostly fields, and you could see what looked like maybe farms, off in the distance, and you can see the mountains in the distance and the forests, and It's very beautiful. You see some odd little creatures. There are these sort of lizards that they can fly. They have like long flaps on the sides, and they can jump from one tree to the next and sort of glide along. And they're almost rainbow colored. They're just brilliant, and they're metallic and very pretty. And you see birds up in the sky. And as the landscape changes, it goes from farmland to almost a park-like look, where you have beautiful green grass, very even colored. You have beautiful walls. You have an occasional pillar or column sticking up. Maybe a little Greek-looking temple, not like the Parthenon, but just a little thing, a little shrine. And you're also going to hill country, where the hills just go up and up and up and up, and each one of them has what looks like parks on the top of it, and it's very, very beautiful. But we'll get back to you later. Okay, so what next? I want to jump back to Wayne. You get cleaned up, and you go into the cat compartment looking for Ghost, but you don't find him. And you know that he tends to wander around the train.
Mm-hmm.
So he could be just about anywhere.
But the cats are still there.
Oh yeah, there's lots of cats still there.
Okay.
In fact, I believe you met his parents.
Are they there?
Yes, they're there. What's her name? Sophia, and I don't remember if the male had a name, but I'm sure he did at some point.
Mm.
Sophie, and it was either Muchek or Puzo or something like that. My old cats. Okay, so after about an hour or so, you know that you're going to be coming very soon into Czar. And Henry finds each one of you, wherever you are. And he explains to you, gentlemen, we are about to come into the city of Czar. And he says, but I must warn you once again, don't get off here. We only stop here to deliver supplies, to pick up supplies, and to pick up any lost souls that might be here. Czar is a very, very, very dangerous place.
What can you tell us about Czar?
Well, Czar, let me read this. He says, well, Czar is kind of a park-like city. You'll find it if you look out the windows. It is extremely beautiful, extremely beautiful. We have the sea on one side, we have the hills going up, and they're all like a park. But he says Czar is the abode of unformed dreams. He said it holds all the incomplete objects and half-dead remains of beings once dreamed of, but then forgotten or discarded. He says in Czar you'll find the dreams of beauty and thoughts of beauty that came to men once and then were forgotten. They're visions of poets that died before the world could ever read their stuff. He said, no dreamer who ever sets foot on the slopes or meadows of Czar ever return. So that's best to just stay away. Once again, as I say, we're here just to pick up possible people who've managed to get away. It's very rare, but it does happen.
When it does happen, those people who show up, what sort of condition are they in?
Well, so far, monsieur, There have been only two. One was a woman many years ago, and she was very physically damaged. I don't know how she came to be in that state, but she couldn't speak, and she was almost in a kind of catatonic state. I took her from here and delivered her to... where's my list of cities? I delivered her to King Kuranes to see if he could find a place for her in his city. And the other was a man who I'm almost ashamed to say he took advantage of us. He used the train for his own personal gain instead of being honest with us. And I don't know whatever happened to him. He did not... I don't know what happened to him. But that's a... It's not really a long story, but there's not really much to it.
I see.
So...
Yeah. Okay, so we won't get off here.
No, and then, Monsieur, we'll be here, though, for about an hour and a half as we load and unload, and then we will be on our way for Afurat.
Okay. All right.
So, and then he leaves.
When we do arrive, I'm not going down, but I'll stand out, I guess, the welcoming zone where everybody boards, and I'll just stand there and like look at the area, take a look at the area, but not get off the train. And if he has like a pair of binoculars or like spyglass or something like that, so I can see out in the distance to see what type of things are here.
If you ask him that question, he's like, "Oh, oui, monsieur, in the drawer right there next to your table, you'll find a looking glass."
Okay.
Simply because you want one. Binoculars, I'm not sure that they'd invented binoculars yet, so...
Okay.
Well, once again, it's got to be...
Yeah.
Within the last few hundred years.
Well, if I would have known that, I would have had a few women apply that oil and perfume while I was taking my bath.
Oh, monsieur, you can have a complete massage and anything you wish. He says, please enjoy our facilities, monsieur.
Yeah.
So let's just say this, that Eldridge continues to talk with them for a while and then gets kind of... You're not sure whether... You'd like to think that you got bored with them, but you think they kind of got bored with you a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really like talking to them anyways. I mean, they're kind of genocidal assholes. So I'll go find my friends.
Or their ancestors were, whatever. Yeah, but...
Whatever.
Okay. So, Jeff, you've stayed there looking out the window, and you've seen how beautiful everything is, and now you've been warned by Frank as well, by Henry as well.
Did I happen to notice, you mentioned some of the creatures, did I notice any other humans? Or what appear to be humans?
Not... Well, you didn't really see any people. You didn't go through any villages or anything like that. You imagine that since you did see some houses and, like I say, farms, that they look like they were made for people.
That's what I was wondering. Like, you mentioned the living spaces, but I was like...
Yeah, they look like regular farmhouses, but, of course, farmhouses from 200 or 300 years ago. Thatched roofs and stuff like that. Okay, so the train pulls into the dock at Zar, and it's incredibly beautiful. You can see, looking, if you lean a little out the windows and you look down, you can see that the train is now exchanging whatever was on the dock for what was in its cargo hold. It looks like it's rather odd. It's got boxes of colorful lilies, which it's picking up, and it's putting like things that look like textiles and wool and ivory on the dock.
Sorry, the train is picking up the lilies, or the lilies are being dropped off?
The lilies were in boxes on the dock.
Okay.
And it's now exchanging. It's putting the boxes inside of itself and putting things like wool and textiles on the dock. You don't see, there's not like people there picking it up. You don't know exactly how this stuff is transported or whatever. You also know that in the next hour or so, lunch is going to be served in the banquet hall. Now, you're there for maybe... Eldridge, what are you doing? Are you also watching or looking out the window?
I guess I'll head with Dr. Dawkins, and I will hang out on the platform and kind of just watch, but not go off of the platform.
Okay. You, Henry's also there, and
Okay. I'll do the same.
You're all three standing up there, just sort of looking out, and he's explaining. He's like, well, let's say he's got a little bit of lore, and he's like, you see that temple up there on the mountain. He says, I believe that was created for Zeus, but if you look carefully, it's all incomplete because the plans were never actually used by the architect. So he's pointing out, like he said, things that were sort of half-formed, but not. They're not really what they appear to be. They sort of are ideas, but they're not quite real, not quite there. And all of a sudden, coming from around where the boxes and things were, you see a very strange-looking man. He's dressed in rags. His hair is crazy. And he comes running up onto the dock, and Henry's reaction is, oh my. He says, we may have a lost soul. And he immediately goes down the ramp to, or the steps down to the dock. Now, this guy looks freaky crazy. And you're not sure from where you're standing, but I don't think he has eyes. In fact, this is what, let's see. This is what he looks like. And he's making weird noises, and he's gibbering and no, the things I've seen. He's really nuts. Bang.
Oh, by the gods.
And he's screaming, and he keeps, as Henry is sort of trying to talk to him, he keeps lunging towards Henry, and Henry has to take a couple steps back.
I'll go down there and back Henry up then.
So will I. Does he look? Is he acting violent, or is he acting like disoriented and confused and demented and stuff like that? Like he doesn't know where he is.
All of the above.
So he is violent.
He looks. Yeah. He'll pull back, and he'll be like pleading, help me. The things, the horrors that I've seen, I have to escape. But when Henry tries to step towards him to comfort him, he immediately is like, and tries to attack Henry. So Henry says to Dr. Dawkins, he's like, I am not sure what I can do, monsieur. he says, I don't know what we can do for this man. He is so violent. I don't know whether we should try and take him.
I wonder. Would you happen to? I don't know if he'll drink it, but would you happen to have any of that wine left?
The Chateau de Saoub?
Yeah.
He says.
That's what it was.
He says.
That might not only calm him down, but also ease his mind to a point of.
He says, "Well, monsieur, I'm almost afraid to try." He says, "But oui, monsieur, I have it here." And he pulls out the little green bottle. And he's like, "Be careful, monsieur. You're free to try, but don't let him injure you."
Yeah, and I look over at Dr. Dawkins and I say, "We're not going to just leave him here, are we?"
No, that's not. Yeah, that wasn't the point. So yeah, I guess he has those little small glasses, right? That you can pour the wine in.
Sure. Okay.
So I'll pour a small amount for me, and in front of him I'll drink it, showing him that it's not poisoned. And then I'll pour a little bit for him, and I'll try to hand it to him.
Okay. The second you make any kind of move towards him, he screams violently and tries to knock it out of your hand.
I say, careful now. I'm just trying to help you.
He says, I just want to escape. I just want to escape the things I've seen. I tore out my own eyes so that I wouldn't have to see. But I still see. I still see, he says.
Tom,
Well,
can I do a psychology roll to see if he's only acting violent because he is blind and he is afraid?
Sure.
All right. That is a 23, so I passed.
Okay.
It's a hard as well.
What your assessment would be is that he's completely nuts, and he probably can't tell the difference between reality and whatever nightmares he's seen. So he might not even be seeing you or seeing it all. He says that he sees, but he doesn't have eyes. He's perceiving you as probably monsters. And at the same time, he's probably thinking, oh, you're probably not monsters, and I want to help you. But then again, you might be monsters, and I don't know. So he's acting extremely confused.
Okay, so I'll back off. I'll hand the glass to Eldritch. I'll say you should try some of that, by the way. And of course, right now I'm feeling euphoric. But I'll say, why don't you tell us what you've seen? Calm down, and perhaps we can help. We're not going to harm you.
And he's like, he's not rational. Everything that he says is just gibberish and nonsense. It really comes down to whether, I mean, he's obviously dealt with some of this before, and he probably can deal with this in some way. But Henry seems rather reluctant to let somebody who's so violent on board the train. He says to you, the only place that we could put him would be in one of the internal cells, like we could have it almost like a padded cell for him to get put in.
But then what would you do with him later? I mean, you're not going to keep him there forever.
Well, when we get to Sonanil or Seranian, we can probably put him in a place that's extremely peaceful. I don't know whether he'll be able to appreciate it, but at some point he might slowly come out of this. It might be once he's surrounded by warmth and beauty and comfort, then he'll eventually get used to it. Maybe there's people that can talk to him too, psychologists, or
Okay.
it's possible if any of you have any knowledge of psychology. But talking to him,
I don't. But
he says that we should probably restrain him, but not. We don't want to hurt him, and we don't want him to hurt himself. Obviously, he does hurt himself.
Yeah, but the question is, how do we restrain him?
He says, "Well, monsieur, I do have," and he points over at the tentacles all over the train.
That will probably upset him even more.
Well,
we don't know exactly what he's seen out there, so.
Yes,
and
we
if
don't even want to know what he's seen out there.
I would imagine, and I mean, like, this is just coming off the top of my head, but you're telling me that this place is a place where aborted projects or aborted dreams are left. But wouldn't they eventually, even though it may seem like they're aborted, when they actually grow and have more or less like a mind of their own? For an example, and I point over to the unfinished Temple of Zeus. For example, over there could be some other type of beings that exist there, sort of like the Greek gods, and rule or something like that.
And he's like, "Well, monsieur, to be completely honest, as I say, I've been a long traveler here, and I know what I've learned, and I know what people have told me, but I don't know everything." He says, "I know that the legend is that anybody who goes into that city never comes back out again. And I know that this is the Dreamlands. These things are created by the dreams of people like you and me. And if they're dead and they're gone, then there's nobody to complete their temple. That belongs to them."
Can Frank step forward, and he'll say that he has some experience with dealing with people.
Okay.
And he'll try to talk calmly to the person, to the man. And
Okay.
first of all, he's going to try to ask him his name.
Well, I'll tell you what. Do a persuade roll for me.
Okay, what I was kind of getting at is I do have skill in psychology, so I was thinking maybe I could
We'll do a psychology roll.
roll in the attempt of maybe calming him down to the point where he'd be willing to
say the
walk
right
off.
things. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a no.
Okay.
77.
Well, it doesn't change. He continues to. It's almost as if he goes into a sadness and he becomes internal until you make a move towards him, and at which point he reacts violently. So maybe it is because he's blind and he can't really see.
So I'll suggest to Henry, what if we kind of just back away and leave one of the doors open for him and just tell him to follow us in?
And he's like, "Oh, monsieur, what if he runs through the whole place tearing it up?" He says he could injure somebody. It's very dangerous. I think, I don't know. I am of two minds. I wish to help him, and I don't wish to endanger anyone else, monsieur.
What about that portion that we saw where the Ibians went down to?
Yes, there are 4 such places, and that is what I'm thinking, that we can put him there. It can be made very soft so he cannot injure himself. But I think the only way to do it is with Mimi's children. They could restrain him and put him in there, and but they'll have to restrain him. They'll have to keep him from getting out. I don't know, monsieur.
I think that's understandable.
I welcome your advice, monsieur. You were saying, Eldridge?
Well, I was saying that I think that we should keep him restrained. I think can the tendrils grab him and then pull him into the train cars, or?
Oui, monsieur.
Okay, so
we can do this most quickly if one of you will go up to the platform and open up the door.
Okay.
Okay. By the way, did he tell us his name?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go grab the door, open the door.
Okay. So Frank, you go up there, and you remember that you can see on the pattern that you put your foot on a certain spot, and a tentacle comes up and opens up the door. So the guy is sort of, bobbing and weaving. So you guys are constantly, on guard, because at any moment he could just leap on you, and his fingernails are all nasty and long, and his teeth are, well, you saw the picture that I found.
Yeah.
In fact, that's on my screen right now, and I've got to get rid of it because it's really disturbing. That's better. Okay. All right. So Henry's like, all right, monsieur, we'll give it a count of trois. Un, deux, trois. And all of a sudden, the tentacles reach out from the thing, and they wrap around his arms, and he begins screaming, ah, ah, like this. But the tentacles lift him off the ground, and they pull him up, and they're heading toward you, Frank, and you can see that he's trying very hard to struggle, but it's wrapped around him, and it's holding him, and down into the chamber it goes. And after a couple of seconds, they retract very quickly, and the door closes. And
Henry, is there a way to? I don't think they had these when you were alive, but is there a way to have some sort of a radio or something like that to play some tranquil music?
Unfortunately, monsieur, no, there's no such thing.
Okay.
Not in the Dreamlands. There are musicians, of course, but I don't know if we have any musicians on board the Dreamland Express. I don't believe we do. When we get to Saranian, the Saranian is a very beautiful city. It's where it's one of the king's cities. Saranian, Sonanil, and Celophaeus, but we don't go to Celophaeus.
No?
No, Celophaeus is the capital, but it's far inland.
Okay. The other question is, if we let him off there, would he be a danger to the people there?
Well, there will be people who will be able to take him.
Okay. So I imagine that they would be used to something like this.
Yes, I often deliver people to that place. But, of course, some people can't be helped, can't be fixed.
Okay. Well.
So, that excitement over, you stand there for a while, and he's like, well, messieurs, we are about to depart. I believe lunch is about ready. If you would like to join us.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, you head back up onto the train, and the ramp is retracted, or it's the tentacles put it back in its container on the dock, and the train begins to move as you go into the dining room. And once again, the dining room is of a size and to suit the people that are there. You notice one of the first people to arrive is Mac Mackenzie, followed by Madame Bonneval and Karakov, and they all come in. The Sarnathians come in a few minutes later,
Fashionably late.
Yeah, and they tend to all sit together at the far end. Though they sort of, you can tell that they're sort of looking over at Eldridge like, if you'd like to join us, you're certainly welcome.
Yeah, and you know what? I will smile and I'll excuse myself from my own table and I will go sit with the Sarnathians.
Okay. The Ibians do not come, obviously.
Yeah.
So you enjoy a very nice lunch, and nothing much happens other than that. Though there is a moment when Karakov, as he's sitting there, he suddenly leaps up as if he's startled by something, and quickly puts down his handkerchief and begins to leave the room. Just suddenly, And he's not saying anything to anybody as he's doing it. You have a moment to say something to him if you want to, but other than that, he's just going to go.
I'll say, something wrong? I'll ask.
He doesn't stop moving, but he sort of looks back at you with a look of like, what, are you crazy? And he says, can't you hear? Is he German? I know, Russian. He says, I need to practice all of these things over and over again. He says, can't you hear them? The guns are so loud. And he goes out the door. You don't hear anything.
Okay.
And Mac McKenzie's sitting there like, what the hell was that all about? And Madame Bonneval is just sipping her tea. And
of course she is.
Oh, she's sitting there now. She is sitting there with Zusha, and she seems to be sort of having a little conversation with, I forgot about Zusha. She's having a pleasant little conversation. So about all she does is look at Karakov as he goes like, with disgust, like of course a man would act like that.
How's everybody else taking his little outbursts?
Well, for a moment, Henry looked like he was going to follow, like, are you okay? Or is there something I can do to help you? But the man obviously seemed like he didn't want any assistance. So he barely answered you, but he did it in kind of a rude and an odd way. So he goes. Henry stands there for a few moments, and I always want to say that a look of concern comes over his face, but you can't see his face. He suddenly, he sort of goes, hesitates a couple times, and then he says to you all, he says, excuse me, messieurs, madame, messieurs, and he turns around and he goes also, obviously to make sure everything's okay. So, lunch ends. I'm sorry, this is all narrative at this point, but lunch ends, and the Sarnathians are kind of the first ones to get up. They've done with their lunch, and they're not particularly interested in hanging around with other people.
Is the guy with the weird eyes, the yellow eyes?
Oh, Mironimir? Yes, he's here also.
Okay.
He seems very contemplative. He's very quiet. He doesn't seem to, I don't know how to explain it. Emotions aren't his strong point. So think of it like in a sci-fi show. He's like the Vulcan.
Oh, I should
So
go talk to him.
he's kind of restrained, and he kind of looks like he's pleasant, and he's got a smile on his face, but it doesn't really ever seem to change much. So you don't know if he's just off in his own thoughts, or if he just doesn't have any thoughts at all, and he's just eating his food and listening to you guys. But
Oh, so he's not sitting with the others. Is he sitting by himself?
no, he's in the group.
Okay.
He's not a Sarnathian, right?
No, he's Cerubian, actually.
Cherubian. Okay.
Now, I should give you guys a chance during this meal. Karakov is left, but if you guys want to talk to anybody or ask any questions.
I'll try to talk to him and ask him about where he comes from, his people, that sort of thing.
You cut out there for a second. I didn't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll ask, I'll try to talk to him, strike up a conversation. I'll ask him about himself, his culture, his people, where he comes from, that sort of thing.
He explains, he says, I am possibly the last of my kind. He's like, my people are from Sarub, which is not the Earth. We had a very high culture, and we used to sail on ships with lemon sails, and we used to be wine merchants here in the Dreamlands, but the ships have long since stopped coming, and it's my belief that something has happened to my people. I have no ship, so I have no way to get back. But I still have a stock of fine wines, and I can still make my way and my living here.
What sort of currency do you accept for this fine wine of yours?
We don't really use currency, if you mean like paper money.
Well,
You're not the only person who's ever asked me that. It's very strange. Is that what your people use, pieces of paper?
pieces of paper. In the past, we used coins made of rare metals to trade.
Ah, well, that seems more reasonable. Fine metals might be one thing I would change it for, or jewels, or whatever services I might need, room and board, traveling on the train.
I see. Which types of metals would you consider rare or valuable?
I'm not sure their names in your language, Resdiforizinium or Pastacroliphonium. One I think you do know is platinum. Is that the name?
Right. Platinum. Okay.
Yes, that is a valuable commodity.
Yeah, it's quite rare on our world. So, I understand. I don't know how I'll get some money here into the Dreamlands, but if ever I do have some platinum, I will love to have a stock here on the train as long as I'm on the train, you know.
I understand.
So, and then I ask, so where's your destination, if you don't mind me asking?
My destination, I simply travel on the train.
Okay.
I am currently probably get off in Saranian.
Okay. Does your people have a science where you come from?
I'm not sure exactly what you mean.
And I'll explain. On Earth, you know, we have ways and methods of proving what is real by a method of tests that we can consistently get the same exact result over and over again. We call that science. When we discover something, we pretty much make it our theory, more or less, and that's sort of the way that we believe that the world works.
And he's like,
and we advance our technologies using this sort of thing.
His response is funny. It's just, well, your world seems rather boring then. I mean, without any spontaneity at all.
Well, there's plenty of.
I'm not sure that would work here in the Dreamlands.
Well, no, this is completely. I myself am a scientist from where I come from. I study organisms of different species, basically.
I see.
Or, you would call them, I guess, different cultures or different people. But we have millions of species on our planet or our world.
Well, then you must enjoy being here quite a bit. We have, I believe, millions of species as well in the Dreamlands.
Yeah, this is a complete new experience for me.
But if I'm understanding what you say correctly, you might find it much more difficult to categorize things in this world, since that small purple rodent might not be a small purple rodent tomorrow. But then again, it may.
And then, this is going to be our conversation, I guess, for a few hours.
He's like, we call that evolution.
Yeah, and then we'll talk about evolution. But then I'll ask him if he can tell me more about the Dreamlands, how it works.
He doesn't seem to know anything more than what Henry knows.
Okay.
He knows more about where things are, and he describes a few things, the plains of this and the mountains of that, and it all just sounds like gobbledygook, of course, because names don't mean much when, the river of this or the mountain of that, and okay. You can't retain all of that anyway.
Yeah.
So anyways, let's just say that lunch ends. And everybody goes about what they're going to do.
Hey, Tom.
Yes.
Before lunch is officially put away, could I take my plate and put some more food on it and then approach... I'm guessing Henry is here in the cabin?
He's come back, yes.
Can I approach Henry and say, I was wondering if you thought it'd be a good idea if we brought this to the man in the isolated cabin?
We can try. Certainly, I wouldn't bring the fork or the knife.
Well, no. I guess I just put them on a table, and I say, do you mind if I take it?
He says, Monsieur, I have a marvelous idea. And as the people are getting up to leave, he takes you into the kitchen, and something very odd happens. I think this happened last time. I don't remember if you were there when they went into the kitchen, but
I was not.
It seems like when you go into the kitchen, just as you're going in, there's a great deal of hustle and bustle going on in the kitchen. But when you walk into the kitchen, all of it stops. There are things that are in the middle of preparation. There are vegetables that were being chopped, but there's suddenly like no one there. And as Henry walks in, he notices that there's a big, or he doesn't notice, he knows, there's a big sort of wicker basket. And he reaches up and pulls it down, and he says, I don't think there's anything on this that the man can hurt himself with. He said, let's put the food in there because he might break the plate and harm himself.
That's a smart idea. Okay. Yeah. And so I just take
he put
stuff
some
that
bread.
isn't messy, like rolls. Yeah.
Right.
and we put it in the wicker basket, and then I hold up the basket and I say, "Do you mind if I bring this to him then?"
Oui, monsieur. Just be careful. I will have the train restrain him until you have placed the basket in, so that he doesn't attack you.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm gonna go do that.
All right. So you guys leave the other Dr. Dawkins and Frank.
Mm-hmm.
You're also leaving.
Yeah, I'll ask Henry when he comes back if he's seen ghosts anywhere.
He says, no, not recently, monsieur, no.
Hmm.
I'm sure he's probably in the cat car with his family.
I looked there earlier, he wasn't, but all right, just curious.
He's a very curious cat, yes, monsieur. All right, so two things. One is, Eldridge, you, in fact, go downstairs, and the tentacles in the room are ready to restrain him if they need to, but the man is actually curled up in a corner, and he seems to be asleep. You can see that he's breathing heavily, and he's, twitches every once in a while and like this. But at the moment, he seems to be asleep.
Okay. So I guess I approach him. I'm not necessarily scared of him. I understand what's going on. Like, he's blind and he doesn't know where he is, and there's tentacles everywhere. Tentacles just grabbed him. He probably thinks he got eaten by something. And so I take the wicker basket and I just kind of set it down beside him. And I guess I'm going to wait until he wakes up because I want to talk to him. I want to get him in a lucid enough state to where I can speak to him.
Okay. He lays there, once again, whimpering just a little bit for maybe just 2 or 3 minutes. And then you suddenly notice him sort of go like this, and you can smell the bread too. It smells nice.
Okay.
So he suddenly starts looking around. Of course, he can't see you, but he puts his hand on the bread, and it scares him at first, but then he realizes what it is, and he starts eating.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm just gonna say, hello. Let's just see how he reacts to a hello, because I don't know if he knows I'm here.
He reacts slightly to the sound of your voice, but he's eating, so he's not paying a lot of attention.
Okay.
What you can do, if you have anything like in psychoanalysis, it's a long shot, probably.
Let's see what I have in psychoanalysis. No, I have psychology, but I don't have psychoanalysis.
Well, go ahead and do a psychology roll, and we'll see if you can talk to him at all.
Okay. Let me just move my dinner, and... Okay. I got a 50. So
Okay.
that's exactly my roll. All right.
Okay.
What does that do?
Well, okay. He's eating, and as he's eating, you get the impression that there might be kind of like it's almost like a hypnotic suggestion that if you make certain noises or if you make certain requests, he seems to mimic them. So he does hear you.
Okay. I then say, my name is Eldritch. Do you remember your name?
And his response, it takes him a second to respond because he's got food in his mouth, but he says, my name is Eldritch.
Okay, so he's just repeating what I'm saying. Okay. I say, do you know where you came from?
And at this point, he's eating, so he's just like, where you came from.
Okay. So I think I can make this work. It's a little mind fucky, but I think I can get it. Okay. Did you come from Earth?
He when you say Earth, he stops eating for just a second, like he's trying to remember something, and then he just goes right back to eating and doesn't say anything.
Okay, but that's still a response. I mean, he recognizes the word Earth. So then I say, were you? I'm just going to name off cities. Were you from automatically Arkham? Were you from New York? Were you from London? Were you from Beijing?
Go ahead and do a luck roll.
Okay, my luck is 45, so let's see what I get. That's a 40. I got a 46.
You go on for some time, but nothing seems to actually affect him. But you do get the distinct impression that talking to him might help.
Okay, yeah. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to stay down here. I'm going to talk to him one-on-one. Should I continue, or do you want to go on to another person?
Well, we'll go on because, this would be fruitless for a long time. But you're trying to help him. The other two of you, when you were walking back, now the Sarnathians went out first. As you're walking along, you're in the corridor, going by the den, the salon, whatever we called it, and this time, Frank, you look up, and jammed into the corner is another Ibian, and it sort of is put up there, which Dr. Dawkins, you immediately know what it is.
This is in the bath car?
Is.
I'm losing you.
Does it? Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
I'm losing Tom.
Can you hear me?
I can now. You dropped out for most of that.
Oh, sorry. It's in the lounge car, near the lounge
car. Okay.
Is it the same one that was stuck earlier, or?
This can sound prejudiced, but they all kind of look the same to you.
Okay.
And they certainly all sort of smell the same to you. But it's got the same sort of problem. It looks like it's been shoved up there.
These things are small.
Is it the same exact area, or is it like a different corner?
Well, it's not in the bathroom area. It's in the lounge area. But it's just kind of a random corner. It needs like the ceiling and two walls for it to sort of get wedged up there and stick.
I'm wondering if these things are spawning all over the train.
It doesn't look like it. Looks like an adult. It looks like the same as the other ones, but
then again, I've never seen a kid one, unless there were some kid ones or young ones that came onto the train.
There weren't.
I'm curious how they got up here because
I
think put them down below on purpose because of their smell. But it's almost, I'm wondering if the Sarnathians are putting them up there.
Yeah, I will call for Henry.
Okay. Oui, monsieur. Henry is here. How can I help? Oh, my goodness. He looks up. And
I tell him that I pulled one off the wall in the washroom earlier. I'm wondering how they've gotten up here.
He says, well, it looks, monsieur, like somebody has pushed him up there. I don't think he could climb up there and get stuck. We need to help him down, monsieur.
Yeah, I helped the other one down earlier. All right, you know what? I'll help out this time as well. This time I'm going to take my bath with some beautiful women.
Okay, monsieur. Um, let me at least assist you. So,
Okay.
um,
I'll do the same thing I did last time. I'll tell the creature to keep its claws to itself, to calm down, and I'll have him down in a second.
all right. So with Henry's assistance, you manage to unstick him and bring him down as well. And of course, once again, you are Stinky.
Yep.
Henry says something very odd to the thing. He looks down at it and he says, "Do you have a squeaker?" And the creature looks up at him for a moment and then just walks away. And Henry is like, "Monsieur, I think it may be a good idea before you take your bath, if we go and speak to the Ibians."
Okay. I'll come down there with you.
Now I must warn you.
Yeah, I don't know if they can understand me. Seems like they don't speak at all.
Don't worry about that, Monsieur. You'll see. You'll understand when we get there. Monsieur Frank, would you like to come with us?
Yes,
I must
please.
warn you, the smell is pretty strong.
Yeah, this is interesting. I'd love to.
All right. Okay, so you guys walk. Fortunately, you don't meet anybody along the way because you guys now reek. Well, two of you do. Actually, oddly enough, Henry doesn't.
Henry doesn't. Yep.
Yeah.
I kind of figured.
But anyways, you go to the platform and step on the thing, and the door opens, and there are stairs going down. The creature, by the way, is just at this point just a few steps ahead of you, and you go down, and it goes from steps to being like a little corridor that's green. The walls are green, and it's kind of soft. It's not hard corners or angles.
Okay.
And it sort of turns a little corner, and then there is a room. But the room is also soft. And the smell is pretty strong of stinky cheese. And the other 5 Ibians are there. A couple of them are sitting on the floor, and it looks like they're playing some odd sort of game with little beetles or insects or something.
Are they rolling dice?
Well, no, they're not rolling anything, but yeah, it's almost like some sort of a positioning game with these little beetles. When Henry appears, and when you guys appear, except for the 2 that are playing the game, they stand up and they look at you and they just stop what they're doing and they face you. Henry says, there seems to be something odd going on board my train. Can you explain it? And at this point, one of the little creatures, one of the Ibians, sort of reaches into a pouch on its side, and with its claws, it opens up like this, and sitting in its palm is what looks like a little frog. It's only about an inch across, and it is bright golden yellow. And the frog opens its mouth, and this voice comes out, and it says, "The Sarnathians have been tormenting us. They shoved us up into the corner." And Henry is like, "I see."
I kind of figured that.
And the little frog says, "This one here," and he points it at Dawkins. He's like, "He has assisted us now twice. And for that we thank you."
It was no problem at all, sir. How did they come down here and grab you and stick you up there, or How did they get a hold of it?
We were exploring the train, and they assaulted us. The Sarnathians are bad people.
Was it just the man? Or was it all of them?
We do not understand what you say. They all look the same to us.
I turn to Henry and I say, what are the rules about tormenting other guests on this train? What do you do to those who do that?
Well, monsieur, people are guaranteed safety on my train. They have not been physically harmed. They would not succeed if they were to try and injure one of the Ibians. I imagine they probably think it's a prank of some sort. And he says to the Ibians, he says, my suggestion, messieurs, is that we make you as comfortable as possible here, and until we reach Saranian and the king, we'll do our best to make you comfortable here. Perhaps not wander around the train where the Sarnathians can get to you. We thank you for your hospitality.
Absolutely.
And Henry explains to you, he says the little frog is telepathic. So it's able to hear what the Sarnathians wanted to say. And can kind of read minds and convey the information. It's a babblefish. It's a babble frog. A squeaker.
Just don't bring that into the plantation next week.
What? What's the plantation? So anyways, what would you like to do next?
Well, now after we leave this smelly little hole, I'm going up for a bath.
Okay. And at this point, Frank, you're going to need one too.
All right.
Yeah, you guys reek. Now, of course, all of your clothes, without you realizing it or not, are more or less disposable because you've got
more,
all clothes, whatever you need. All right, so you guys are going to head to the bathroom area, and Eldridge, we'll say that you've been down there now for, I don't know, you tell me how long.
I'm going to be down there for as long as I need to be down there until I feel sleepy or tired or hungry. So I'm just sitting down there just trying to make some leeway with him. I'm constantly talking to reassure him that, like, there are friendly people on the train. No one wants to hurt you.
Well, his attention, it seems like when he was eating, his attention became not fixed on you, but at least he understood that you were there. But as soon as he's done eating, after about 30 minutes, he's completely ignoring you. And in fact, he's curling back up in the corner and falling asleep.
Okay, so there's absolutely no way for me to communicate with him any further?
Well, I mean, you can do whatever you want to do.
Okay, as I've got people downstairs. All right, so what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to approach, and I guess I'm going to kneel down to him, and I'm going to do something a little maybe not smart, but I'm going to say, what did you see?
He doesn't answer.
He doesn't answer?
He's now gone back into his sort of almost like light sleep where he's sort of dreaming, and it'll take some work, but you're pretty sure that after some work you'll get more out of him.
Yeah, if I touch him, does he feel cold? Does he feel warm?
The temperature in the room is nice. He doesn't feel hot or cold. I mean, he feels like normal people.
Okay. Does his skin feel sickly or anything like that?
Clammy, maybe a little clammy. It certainly
maybe
is
a little
dirty.
clammy.
And he's dirty.
Okay. Let me think here. Because he recognizes Earth, so he's human. He was from Earth. I may as well also just ask this out of the blue. He's ignoring me. Maybe I could get some response. Even if it's a negative response, it's a response. Did you die?
No response.
No response. God damn it. I thought that of all things would have triggered him.
I'll just say that it's not likely that you're going to get any response out of him right now, but maybe later.
All right. Okay. DM is pushing me to go back upstairs, so let's go back upstairs.
You don't have to go back. You can stay down there as long as you want.
No, it's okay. Yeah, the DM is trying to railroad me back on the right path. So I'll go back upstairs.
All right. So what are you guys going to do now? You've got about 5 hours before you arrive in Aforat. The next
Do we
city.
know how long we're staying in the city? Is it like a 2-day period, or something like that? Like a
in the city? What
yeah.
do you mean?
In the next city that we're going to, because we just stopped at Czar.
Most of the stops seem to be about an hour and a half.
Okay. So there's no real time to actually go and explore the city. It's more or less like get off, take a look around, and then come back.
Right.
Okay. Okie dokie. I guess at this point, I'm just gonna, you know what? I'm gonna try and play around with my dreaming ability. I'm gonna see if I can control stuff.
Okay.
I'm just gonna sit there and I'm gonna focus, on trying to create or morph or change things.
Okay. If you give me something specific.
Let's go ahead and try to recreate something simple. Let's say something simple. Let's not do anything like living or anything like that. Let's try and do a pocket watch.
Okay.
Let's try a pocket watch.
Well, are you going to try to just create it out of thin air, or are you going to try and convert something into it? Or
do we know that if we take material or hold something, we can reshape it?
Well, there's Vert. You've already done it once.
Do we have any more Vert?
I don't know. You'd have to ask.
I've got a lump.
Yeah. I asked Henry. Can I take Frank's lump of Vert, because he's not gonna do anything with it. No. I just asked if we simply have any more of it lying around, because I'd like to practice with it. Pass the time.
He's like, oui, monsieur. You want to play around with some Vert. He's like, it'll be limited on what you can make, but sure, monsieur. And he goes away for a few minutes, and then he returns. Now, let's say you're near the lounge, okay?
Okay.
He goes away. He says, I need to. I'll get it and I'll bring it back. It'll take me just a couple minutes. So he leaves, and just as he leaves, he goes down the corridor. All of a sudden, you notice Karakov. And Karakov goes by. You can see in the corridor that he goes by. You're in the lounge. He goes by. He's got like something wrapped around his hand, like white cloth, and he's holding his hand like this, and he goes by. He seems agitated, and he just goes by. So you can't really react or do anything to it, but you just noticed it.
Can I attempt to follow?
Sure.
Sure. Okay. I attempt to follow.
Okay. What happens is as you step out, he's just gotten to the edge of the sleeper cars, and it's like he just suddenly shoots off into the distance and he's gone. So you know that he's gone to his cabin, wherever it is, but you don't know where it is.
Okay.
You remember this aspect of the sleeper cars?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. Can I attempt to use the dreaming ability to go to his car? Just kind of push myself through to his reality or whatever?
Well, you can try. What I need, I guess, well, I don't know. I don't know if that's actually possible, but go ahead and try.
Okay.
Do your dreaming ability.
Okay. Okay, so that's a 10. What did I? I got a 10. So let's see if I get an 8. I got 19. What is my dream? 22. Okay. 22. I'm okay.
Okay. You suddenly find yourself in a corridor, but you don't know which room, or you don't know if you're in the right place or not.
Okay. Okay. I guess I'm a little paranoid now because I'm using something I have no idea how to use, and but I'm going to go down the corridor. I'm just gonna walk.
Okay.
Any doors? Any noticeable doors?
Well, there's like three or four doors on each side.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna knock on each door.
Okay. There's no answer from any of the doors.
Okay. What is at the end of the hallway? Just the entrance to another cabin or another.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess
behind you is the same thing. It just looks like more train cars going off into the distance.
Was there any noticeable change? Did I jump at all?
No, not really.
Moved like an inch. Okay. So that didn't work. I guess I'm just gonna move forward, and I guess I'll just go to the lounge car. Okay. Play with the Find Henry and play with the Vert.
Okay. So when you hit the edge of the sleeper car and you think about the lounge, that's where you come out into the lounge car.
Okay.
All right, so that's what you're going to do. Dawkins and Frank, you've headed towards the sauna, or I guess we'll call it the sauna salon.
Mm-hmm.
The spa. That's the word I was looking for. The spa. And what would you guys like to do?
Well, I'm gonna bathe. I'm gonna think of some really nice, beautiful Russian women, and
it doesn't produce people for you to play with.
Not to play with, but
Fake people to holodeck with.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't really do that. Although, when you think about a beautiful woman scrubbing your back, there's something scrubbing your back.
Is it me?
That depends on you entirely. However, well,
No,
Frank,
I'm giving Dr. Dawkins plenty of space. I don't want to cram this style.
when Dr. Dawkins is like, yeah, I kind of like somebody's, some beautiful woman scrubbing my back, and suddenly he feels it, and he's like, oh, that feels really good. Frank, you're sitting there going, because a large tentacle has come out of the wall and is now scrubbing his back.
Oh, I love this train.
You should get a massage.
Happy ending, anybody?
There's a lot more than just a happy ending this train can give you if you want.
Tentacle party.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
In any case, let's assume that you guys get all cleaned up and
Yep.
and you're ready. What would you like to do next?
So we have, what, about 4 hours now?
Well, you still got maybe little. You guys were doing stuff at the same time, so we'll say 5. You still got 4.5 hours. Okay.
Okay. There's nothing else we can do. I mean, perhaps go back to the common area and see if there's anybody to talk to.
Okay. Or there's well, you'll need to. You've got you can do whatever you want. So.
Yeah.
You guys are now extremely relaxed, extremely comfortable on this train. This is as far as you're concerned, this is like your house.
Okay.
Make yourself at home, do whatever you want.
Yeah. I'll get maybe a nice stiff bourbon or something like that, and
Okay.
head off to the.
There's all those books in your room that you've read before, but you really liked them.
Yeah. Yeah. You could do that.
I just had a thought of when we went exploring on the train before.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't we find? Was it Karakov's giant box in the cargo?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if it's worth checking out the cargo and just seeing if that box is still there, if it's open.
But I thought that was his vert that he was gonna toss.
Yeah, but that's what he's acting weird. So I'm wondering if there's a connection between what's in the box and why he's acting strange.
That gives us something to do. So I'll go with you.
Okay.
Okay. Well, you end up going back to the fourgon where the package is, and it's exactly where it was before. So that was an adventure that didn't last very long.
Next.
I don't know. I'll say that if there's nothing else to really do, I'll try to have a bit more of that wine if there's any available.
Yeah, you can have some more of that. Some Cerubian chartreuse.
Does it? Am I building up a tolerance for it?
No. It feels like liquid sunshine, and it just makes you feel completely at ease.
I wonder if this would work on the guy down below.
Well, you already tried giving it.
I tried that, but I mean,
he didn't seem to.
Eldritch was able to feed him.
It's not. I wouldn't say it's something that's magical. It's just that good. So
Okay.
it might be something that wouldn't, he might not even taste his food anymore.
I see.
So, but who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
All
right.
I can think of doing is standing over up his shoulder and see how he's doing all this cool dreamland stuff and see if I can learn anything.
Yeah, I'll ask Henry if there's other ways for us to sharpen our dreaming skills.
I don't know, monsieur. It's something that comes with time.
I mean, time, not practice.
Just by being here, monsieur, you are accomplishing something, yes?
Yeah.
And I should go ahead and let you guys at this point roll to increase your lore if you want to, because you've learned quite a bit. So you roll your dreaming lore and try to get higher than that number, and then you can add a 1d10 if you want.
Okay.
Yes. Do that.
4 points.
9 again. Sweet.
Oh, wow.
Points. I am up to 21 in lore.
Cool. Now, knowledge works a little bit differently in the Dreamlands than it does in the real world, because knowledge is more fluid. The whole universe here in the Dreamlands is composed of knowledge, of things that people have thought and dreamed. So it's possible that you guys begin to understand things that you haven't even asked questions about. For instance, the story of Uther, and possibly the history of Sarnath, things like that. But those things are gradual as they come. Nothing much really happens to you as you're traveling to Afarat. But you guys, hang out in the lounge, and you eat some snacks, and you do whatever you want to do, and you maybe go and relax a little in your rooms or whatever. But I would like Dr. Theo to do a spot hidden roll.
No. Damn it. I wish this was Hero or Kenji.
Okay.
But,
let's say you guys are all together. You've opened up and you're all together in your rooms. The other two can do spot hidden.
I got a 55. I passed.
25.
Okay. So Frank, you guys are sitting there chatting about this, and you guys aren't even you're not asking all these questions anymore. You're just well, yeah, this stuff is delicious, and you're all enjoying that. Frank, you look over, and on your rooms are somewhat similar. The colors are different because you guys had favorite colors, but they all have a very large bed, and then at the foot of each of your beds is kind of like a trunk, and there's things in there. There's you guys looked originally. There's towels and whatever you might need as far as maybe a bathrobe or whatever. And Frank, you look over at Dr. Dawkins' sandalwood trunk that's at the foot of his bed, and you're pretty sure there's a smear of something on the front of it. That everything is pristine and clean, but there's something smeared on the front of his trunk, which you notice.
So I'll mention to Dr. Dawkins, did you notice that on your trunk earlier? Is that something new?
I'll look, and I'll say, no, I didn't, and I'll get a closer look.
Well, as you go over there, it's kind of a dark brown stain, but you realize that it almost looks like blood.
Has anyone been in here?
No, they shouldn't have access to this.
Only us and Henry, right?
Correct. Mm-hmm. I'll call for Henry.
Do you want to look inside?
I'll call for Henry first.
Okay. Knock, knock, knock. We miss you.
And I'll show him, I'll have him come in, and I'll say, we just noticed that this looks like blood. I wanted you to be here before we open it, just to let you know that we just noticed this. And I'll ask, would anybody have access
She says, I don't think anybody could get in here, monsieur. No.
All right. So, all right, I'm going to open up the trunk. And don't tell me it's ghost, or I'll flip out. So I'm opening up the trunk.
It's ghost.
Oh, shit.
And ghost is dead, and there are 3 large puncture wounds in its body, as if knives have been driven into him. And that's where we'll end it.
Oh, man.
All right, well, that's where we'll end the episode. Our players tonight included Thomas McKeon, Jeff Wilkins, and Wayne Worthy, with myself as the keeper of the secrets. Our games are played using traditional tabletop methods with music and sound effects added in post-production in order to create a richer listener experience. This is Tom Rayleigh inviting you to journey with us once again into the darkness for another adventure into the universe of H.P. Lovecraft and the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. Until next time, good luck and good gaming.